Let's look at 21st century literacies. What are they? How are they impacting our students? How do they impact us as educators? And how can we transform our teaching practices to reflect the changes in this fast-paced digital world? Over the last 3 decades, globalization and technology have influenced and shaped the base of social interaction and the discourse surrounding the issue of literacy practice and pedagogy. Our students in the 21st century, are living in a world of iPods, wikis, blogs, SMS, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and more. These new forms of technology have redefined and transformed traditional ways of communicating. So how do these new forms of technology impact our students in their social worlds? Students are challenged to constantly adapt to new technologies. These technologies demand a unique set of skills that are inherently different to those needed for traditional print-based texts. Students are confronted with vast amounts of information. This information is communicated rapidly using multiple modes including text, visuals and sound. Students are required to simultaneously process all these modes of information and to constantly switch between these different modes. However, students are not mere consumers of information, but are increasingly designers of multimodal texts. When they blog, create a podcast, or interact on Facebook, students are combining written text, visual images, audio, and other modes of representation to create meaning. So what does all this mean for us as educators? And what does it mean for our literacy practice and pedagogy? With globalization and technology changing the landscape of communication and meaning making, traditional definitions of literacy need to be reconsidered and reformulated. As Borsheim, Merritt and Reed stated, there has been a monumental paradigm shift from traditional literacy to 21st century multi-literacies. In fact, policymakers and curriculum developers have already begun to redefine the notion of literacy. The Board of Studies, in their definitions of literacy, refer to the ability to communicate and comprehend effectively in a wide variety of contexts, modes, and media. Be literate in relation to a range of visual and multimodal texts, as well as those that have evolved from the growth of digital technology. As educators, what do we need to take into consideration when reshaping the definition of literacy? It is well established that traditional definitions of literacy associated with reading and writing print-based monomodal texts need to be broadened to include engaging with technology and multimodal texts. What do we mean when we talk about the word multimodal? Printed text is one mode of meaning. However, to become truly literate in the 21st century, students need to become competent in a diverse number of multimodal contexts. Cope and Kalantzis provide a comprehensive list of multiple modes of meaning, or multimodal representations. These include not only traditional written language, but oral language, visual representation, audio, tactile, gestural, spatial, and self-representation. As we can see, definitions of literacy are expanding. In this globalized world, a much broader and more appropriate term is multi-literacies. To be multi-literate is to communicate in a socially, culturally, and linguistically diverse world, interact with technology in socially responsible ways, critically view, analyze, and interpret multimodal texts, and produce effective multimodal texts. With this evolving definition of literacy, we find ourselves challenged to develop new literacy practices that assist students to effectively and successfully interact with multimodal texts in an increasingly digital environment. You may ask, but what of traditional important fundamental literacy skills? Edwards-Groves is clear in stating that multi-literacies and multimodalities are not in replacement of these basic skills. Rather, the goal is to converge traditional and new literacies to enhance learning. Students of the 21st century are digital natives, having grown up with digital technology as commonplace in their lives. It is no longer reasonable to look at reading and writing as one-dimensional skills. In students' lives, reading and writing seldom transpire without digital forms. So let's look at a specific example of how we can incorporate multi-literacies into our teaching and learning practice. We will look at a Year 2 English class where they are composing informative texts. This class has read the picture book Lost and Found by Oliver Jeckers and are subsequently curious to find out more information about penguins. After researching information, students will be guided through the process of making an information podcast. Rather than using a traditional literacy model for creating an information text, students will use a multi-literacies approach to construct their podcast in non-linear ways, using multiple modes of meaning and applying a range of digital tools. Firstly, let's put the students into small working groups. Working with others throughout the multimodal writing process leads to higher success when using technology in the classroom. Our pedagogy of writing needs to evolve to include skills of teamwork, interactivity and collaboration, which are all skills that are highly sought after in 21st century economies. Next, in groups, let's get the students to share their ideas and knowledge of emperor penguins. Rather than initially writing down their ideas, groups could record their discussions. Using an app like Voice Recorder, groups could discuss and elaborate on their ideas. This gives students the opportunity to listen to their evolving ideas, critically evaluate the information they are representing, and give feedback to their peers about the content. Bogard and McMacken found that planning orally and conferring before drafting offered opportunities for students to make ongoing and flexible revision. By orally recording, students are able to take risks by being able to easily take ideas out, change ideas, and add ideas to enhance the quality of their text. With their information now thoughtfully formulated, students can write the scripts for their information podcast about emperor penguins. Here we see traditional and 21st century literacies converge. Creating a podcast requires students to actively engage in meaning making through multiple modes, including written text, visual images, film, and audio. Throughout this design process, traditional literacy practices are combined with digital modes of communication. This multi-literate model of creating an informative text is vastly different to traditional writing models. Students are engaged with multiple modes of representation, and they are moving between these modes throughout the writing process. The use of technology gives students the opportunity to design text in imaginative and creative ways. In conclusion, we as educators need to challenge ourselves to reflect on our understandings of literacy, explore ways we can combine traditional and new literacies, and support student engagement with multimodal texts, moving towards transforming our literacy practice for the 21st century.